At some point, and at some point in time during that development and during the early part of his life post college, he is influenced and meets Booker T. Washington. And at some point in time, he is drawn to the South to literally see what Booker T. Washington is doing in the Tuskegee Institute. And you have to remember, post-Civil War society, it is deeply segregated, especially in the Deep South. And so Booker T. Washington was focused on the education of the disadvantaged Black children. And when Dr. Ward and his wife came to Camp Hill, they were drawn to do the same thing for the disadvantaged white children. Okay, mostly rural youth. But when you read his manuscript and you read the letters of the children that were writing to him saying, I want to come to your school because I want to learn. Think about the illiteracy rates at the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. Just think about the illiteracy rates. Those children were driven and they were motivated to learn. And that in order for them to get their education, he made a deal with them. You work my farm, I'll give you a place to live, and I'll feed you, and I'll also teach you. Okay? When you understand that, as you see this later on today, things become a little bit clearer about what we have been given to, what has been given to us, and what we are now responsible for. And that's what his school looked like. This is probably in the early to mid 1920s. Okay? This is Dr. Ward. That is his wife, Mary. You can see it's in all ages. Okay, but this was a school, and it was a self-sustaining school. And so how they were taught the arts, they were taught the sciences, but they are also taught what Dr. Ward calls the work of life. And his mission in life was to prepare kids for the work of life. Okay, and how did he do that? He taught them right here. If you get a chance to go up into the school building, Tallapoosa Hall, that was the construction was completed in that in 1930. When you walk through, well, first of all, when you see the bricks on the outside, those bricks were manufactured right here on site. Okay, they actually had a challenge in the development of their brick making, where they had to reach out to Booker T. Washington and have the experts from Tuskegee Institute come over here and teach them how to do it the correct way. And then also the timber that's in that building was grown, harvested, milled right here on site. Okay, so Dr. Lyman Ward, his wife Mary, post-Civil War, dedicated to the education of disadvantaged rural white children in the Deep South. How they decided to stay at Camp Hill was the Universalist Church that's still, there's a historic landmark right up here in Camp Hill. They donated $5,000 to them. That $5,000 was the seed that we are standing on right now. Okay? This is how he used this land. And this is very important to me. This is extremely important to me. It can tell you exactly how he did. And these are pictures of the folks that were working these farms, to include the animals. Okay. And you noticed these kids are earning their keep. Okay. If there's one thing that's missing in the 21st century society, what do you think it is? I've raised 3 of my own. Now those 3 are doing very well. But in today's society, how many kids actually get the experience of a hard day's work? And there's something to be said about manual labor and being able to sustain yourself without electricity or without the internet. Doesn't mean you can't use it, but at some point in time, you need to roll up your sleeve. You need to get to work. You need to do the things that only you can do for yourself. Okay, because if you're waiting on somebody else to do it, a lot of times you're going to be waiting a long time. Okay, but if you take a look at how he used this land, and there's actually 15 acres right around in this area that we want to work with Dr. Brandon and New Water Farms, and we want to develop it. It's about 15 acres, and that's where his rotated crops are. We just had this land, or the timber harvested, and that logging company came in and they dug roads out and everything else. This land, this dirt is so fertile, you do not see the red clay at all. even after they've done the dozing and moving of the dirt in order to create those roads. There is no red clay visible here. It is absolutely the perfect soil for what we need. And it's been 20, 30 years of forest that now sits on top of that. And so we had a plan in order to de-stump it, but some things have happened, but we're going to try to get after it again. He had wood. He had ceresia fields for his hay. 20 acres of kudzu still up there. That stuff does not go away. We're getting ready to do. We're working with the Alabama Department of Forestry, and we're getting ready to do a controlled burn. We had about 30 acres of longleaf in this area, which is right down below the water tower. And we got another 30 acres or so right here behind the athletic field. We're going to burn that down, but we're also going to burn that kudzu down so we can keep it under control. Because when I look at this, originally I've been approached with, hey, why don't you just poison it all and then burn it and then replant it with pine? The challenge is I've probably got 50 to 100-year-old old growth hardwoods that I do not want to lose at any cost. There's nothing more valuable to me that's going to cause me to poison and kill those trees. Okay, and Mr. Joe Watson right here, he's been here 47 years, and him and I have had great conversations and have walked this land. And the history is rich, and we've got to make sure that we preserve it. Okay, but also when you take a look at, he also had orchards. There's orchards here. There were some orchards. About 700 trees or so, Joe. How many what was at the peak of it? About 700, 750 orchard trees. So for the purposes of this meeting, this is probably the most important thing I'm going to show you. Because this is how this land was used. And this is what we're trying to get back to. Now, we will never replicate this. But as we go forward and we revitalize and reinstitute the rigor in our academic programs, it includes an agriculture program. And in that agriculture program, which is being run by Mr. Ryan Montgomery, when you go out to our hoop house, you can see what he's already done. That hoop house was destroyed in the March 23 storm, and we just recently got it back open. We do have plans within the next 5 years or so to put a permanent greenhouse on this land that's between here and the barn with the latest and greatest technology, because this is the 21st century. And we want to be able to use that, whether it is solar power, whether it is being able to sustain and provide our own water capabilities. Because if there's one thing that Camp Hill is disadvantaged in, it's its utilities. Okay, there actually was a point in time where Dr. Ward was digging for his own well, his own water here, and he actually went with the water witch. And when you read about it, literally on the very last day, on the day he was going to fire him because they hadn't found water yet, the water guy said, nope, it's right here, and we need to keep digging. And they had the faith in order to keep digging. And what they ended up discovering was an actual complete underground lake. Okay. And again, that's part of the faith that sustained it. Okay. But it wasn't just about agriculture as well. They also had the athletics. And so when you think of Southern Prep, and I'm getting ready to shift into what is Southern Prep, I've given you kind of the history and a little bit about how Dr. Ward used the land. And that's our blank palette that's out there. But as he was developing these kids, he also realized that it's education, it's athletics, and it's faith. And that is his chapter. So he used the land in order to develop the faith, the academics. He used the athletics to reinforce the faith and the academics. And in order to develop these young kids for the work of life. This picture is in the late 1920s, and this is the mid-30s, as you can see right there. The key point I want to bring up here is that it was co-ed. Because most people in this area who know anything about this school, you don't think about co-ed. You think about all-male military boarding school, okay? But there's a reason why that occurred. Because in the after Dr. Ward passed away in 1948, his donor base went with him. Okay, all of the things that he built over the course of his lifetime, when he passed away, that all kind of went away. And he was facing, the folks that followed him were facing the exact same challenge that I am facing today. Because the school that he established was the Southern Industrial Institute. And when you use the term institute, it automatically had a direct correlation to reform. And because it didn't have the word school in its name, then it was a challenge for donors to be able to donate and then be able to reap the tax benefits because of it. And during that time period in the early 1950s, the Board of Trustees had to make a very conscientious decision. Not dissimilar to a decision that our board recently made that I'm going to get to. And they made the decision to change the name from the Southern Industrial Institute because of its connotations to reform, and they renamed it to the Lyman Ward School. Okay, this is extremely important to understand as they're trying to rebuild their purpose and their donor base. But you can read this advertising from April 30th, 1953 in a Birmingham newspaper. There's nothing on here that I don't do right now. This is exactly the same things that we're doing right here, except our intramural sports are not. They are high school sanctioned sports. And this is where it turns into chapter 2. So as they are trying to distance themselves from reform, they are trying to figure out where is the funding and support going to be in order to keep the school open and alive and vibrant. And now we are post-World War II. And what did American society look like post-World War II? Here's how I would describe it. In post-World War II society, in the United States of America, you could not sit at a table and have dinner without somebody in that circle who either served or knew somebody who directly served in the war. And you're also coming out of a society that it was an entire whole of nation. Whether you were on the front lines or you were back home in the factories, the entire nation came together in order to defeat fascism across the globe. Military was a big part of the society in post-World War II. Mid-20th century, United States of America, military is a central part of that, of our society. So where do you think the money was at? It was with the military. And the decision was made in order to partner with the Army. They first established the civilian equivalent of the junior ROTC, but then it grew into the full-fledged junior ROTC. At the height of the military, Lyman Ward Military Academy, they could have generated a combat-ready unit off of this location. Okay, and so Wesley Smith, who was a student of Dr. Ward's, was the one who took that mantle, and he carried it for 30 years. And there are some great things that come out of that. So when you partner with the military, one of the things you should expect to get out of the military is the excellence and the discipline, the attention to detail, the teamwork, the leadership, the service, all of those things. I spent a 30-year career in the military myself, 27 in the Air Force and 3 in the Space Force. The things that drive me are service before self, excellence in all I do, and integrity. And those are the things that we will carry forward, going forward out of our military program. And you can see in the height of its heyday, this is probably mid-'80s, early '80s, mid-'80s. I think this is Bonita that recently passed away. Yeah. So you can see the excellence here. In addition, you see this gold star. This gold star is a designation of a unit of distinction, with that the Army gives to only its best junior ROTC units. This gold star is extremely valuable to me. I don't have it now, but I will have it shortly, hopefully within a year or so. But what this does is this gives me direct nominating authority to the service academies. meaning that my students that go here and earn the right to get my nomination do not have to go through their elected official to get a nomination to the Service Academy. And I promise you, if my name goes across a nomination to the United States Air Force Academy, I promise you it carries weight. Okay? And we're working hard to get that back. So I want you to see the level of excellence. And there's a lot of discourse about what it is that we're trying to do today. And people think that it is one or the other. And it's not. It is not black and white. It is actually gray. So I'm taking the best of what Dr. Ward did, and you saw that. And we're taking the best of what Wesley Smith did, and you can see this. And we're bringing it forward, and we are applying it to the 21st century. Okay? Because if not, our capabilities become stagnated. And when they become stagnated, you become irrelevant. And when you become irrelevant, that can only lead to one thing. Okay? So we are trying to reclaim our relevancy. And we have a 5-year strategic plan that our Board of Trustees passed in February of 2025. This is bold. And it starts focusing back in on academics, bringing the best of the military program, and then returning to the roots that Dr. Ward started. It's all documented right here. Ultimately, we wanted to result in the establishment of a Polytechnic Institute, and we are well on our way. I am meeting with elected officials on a regular basis, and I have a meeting with Dr. Eric Mackey, who's the superintendent for the state of Alabama. And we're going to talk about the public-private partnership and how do I not just create something here that's just for Southern Prep, but how do I provide something that is beneficial to the community and specifically Tallapoosa County. Right now, I am the only secondary private school in Tallapoosa County. You can't swing a cat without hitting 10, 12, 20 private schools in this area. But I'm the only secondary private school in Tallapoosa County. And because of decisions that our board has made, specifically in November of this year, 1 November of 25, they made the decision to make our military program non-compulsory. What does that mean? It means it's all volunteer. The United States coming out of Vietnam made their military force all volunteer. It was a conscientious decision. So now when I sit around a dinner table in any household in America, how many degrees of separation do you think I need to go to before I actually find somebody who knows somebody who served in the military? At least, okay? Because right now, those folks who are defending our freedom on a daily basis, and they're posturing right now in the Middle East. If you think they're not posturing in the Middle East, you're crazy. Represents less than 0.15% of our population that is defending us on a daily basis. So our ability to stay open and still stay true to what Dr. Ward had established and what Colonel Smith, Wesley Smith had continued on, with that level of knowledge of what the American military is all about, we would be foolish to only hold on to that military tradition. And we are being forced through our enrollment and through the quality of the kids that were actually coming through the school. We are being forced to change. No different than Wesley Smith was forced to change after the death of Dr. Ward. And that's exactly where we are. But we're not forgetting about where we came from. We're actually embracing it. We are carrying on the legacy and the heritage of all that came before us. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to do it through STEAM, and the A is to the fourth power. So obviously the S is for science, the T is for technology, the E is for engineering. Myself, I received my undergraduate degree in electrical engineering from Purdue University. The A is to the fourth power. Obviously, it's for the arts. Now, Mr. Watson was our music director for how long? 27. Okay. When did the music program go away? 2010. About 2010. We just opened it back up this year. Okay. We started last year with club, and we actually had, going into the holiday season, we actually had our band, which is about 4 or 5 members, give a live performance with piano and guitar in our dining facility. And that program is growing. I enjoy playing guitar myself, and I've actually been giving guitar lessons up to the kids at the end of the day so that they can do it. But then we have brass, we have drums, we have keys, and we have guitar, and we have bass. And it's growing. And I just saw the notification that for our art contest through AISA, the Alabama Independent School Association, that we will be soliciting works of art from our students, and we will actually be helping them create those works of art so they can enter them in to be judged to determine which ones are going to represent us at the regional level that then hopefully can go on to represent us at the state level. One of the things that drives me on a day-to-day basis of what we're doing in the school is competition. And competition is important, regardless if it's on the athletic field, in the junior ROTC program, in the schoolhouse. It does not matter. Competition is instant feedback because you're going against somebody else who's trying to do what you're doing, but they're trying to do it better. And through that competition, you get better. Okay, so that's our arts. The next one is agriculture, which is what we're talking about. And that's well on its way with Mr. Montgomery here. And oh, by the way, I've got my agriculture club right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5 back there, I'm thinking. Okay, because I'm seeing students in here. Okay, we didn't, what's that? Environmental science. Okay, all the same things. Because when you see our land out here, I've got 2 ponds, I've got a forest, I got farmland, all of those things that we are trying to partner with folks in the local area, such as Newater Farm, but also Auburn University. We're partnering with Auburn University and the fisheries in order to restock our ponds and remanage those ponds so that they are vibrant. The third A is aviation. I have both manned and unmanned ground school capability right now. And in the unmanned, I can actually take my kids and they can earn their certification, which I have one of my you were a sophomore, correct? Freshman. He is a freshman and already has his FAA certification in drone, flying a drone. Okay, we are on the verge of partnering with Embry-Riddle University in order to get the ground school that will lead to flight school on the manned side of it. And when those kids leave here, they can go straight into a place like Embry-Riddle, or they can go into Auburn and their aviation program, or they go to Purdue, which has a great aviation program, or North Dakota, all of those great aviation schools, and they will already have credit and certifications that will make them advanced in their fields. All of this is coming together. And then the final A is additive manufacturing. And this is where it really this is really where the 21st century comes into play. When I say additive manufacturing, I want you to think about 3D printing. Okay. So what that means is that if I had a log and I needed to make a canoe, right now, the way I would do it is I would chip everything away that wasn't a canoe. And I'd have this pile of scrap that was sitting next to it and this lovely canoe that I just carved out of that tree. Additive manufacturing is I only use the parts of the tree I needed in the first place to create the canoe. Completely flips that model on its head. But it's not the product that I'm interested in. It's the process that gets me to the product. Did I critically recognize a problem that I needed to solve? How did I determine what I needed to do in order to solve that problem? What equipment and or material did I need, or training or teaching or anything else that I needed in order to get me there? How did I design it? How do I manufacture it? Then how do I actually test it to see if it met the needs that I needed to do? And then I start that process all over again. That's the 21st century society. It's going to take my 3D printers. It's going to take my artificial intelligence. It's going to take my internet connectivity. It's going to take my cybersecurity. All of these things that our 21st century society is built on, I can capture all in that one thing. And oh, by the way, a lot of the things that I need to produce, somebody else has probably already designed it. And so how do I network in order to get what I need in order to build those relationships to then be able to solve the problem I needed to solve in the first place? Okay. And then, of course, the M is in mathematics. How all of this is going to culminate is that we have grand plans through the board of directors or board of trustees to establish a Polytechnic Institute and build a state-of-the-art STEAM center. Okay, but it's right there. And right next to our auditorium so that we can then revitalize our arts as well. So it's very bold and it's very forward thinking. Okay, and we are not going to forget about any of this. Okay, to include the junior ROTC in our Corps of Cadets. Right now, our junior ROTC, we're the only junior ROTC program in Tallapoosa County, which means that the kids from Dadeville High School, Reeltown High School, and Horseshoe Bend High School that are interested in junior ROTC, they're able to attend my classes here in my leadership. And I have two outstanding, I have a sergeant major, retired command sergeant major, and a retired master sergeant Army, both from the Army, who are running that program. On the 25th of April, we are going to have what we call Ranger Fest, where we open up our entire campus to the local community, but the center of attraction for that day, and it's going to include a classic car show, and I got a wrestling tournament, and we're going to have vendors and all kinds of other events going on. But the center of attention, the center of mass for that day is a junior ROTC competition that they call Raider competition. And it is based on physical fitness, team building, and problem solving, and an indoor marksman shoot, which I have indoor range that we will do that. And that will be the center of attention on that day. So when people are concerned that we are abandoning the military to get to where we're trying to go to, I would question them and say, do you really know what we're really doing? Okay. And getting back to junior ROTC is getting back to citizen development, and it's getting back to what real military excellence looks like. We'll still keep our Corps of Cadets. If you're familiar with Texas A&M or Virginia Tech, you know how important those Corps of Cadets are to those schools. We will have a secondary version of that post-secondary model. And if you think anybody who was in the Corps of Cadets and graduated from Texas A&M and a member of the Corps of Cadets, and they don't let you know about it at every opportunity, you're crazy. Virginia Tech is the same way. Okay, so we are taking the best of chapter 1, we're taking the best of chapter 2, and we are creating chapter 3. That's what a lot of you are here to be here. But how we do it is through partnerships through New Water Farm. I think that takes me to the end of it. I covered a lot of stuff in a very short period of time, and I tried to boil it down to a place where folks can start to process it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
What about the day student? Is that
Oh, yes, ma'am. I'm glad you asked that question, because also there were two key decisions that have come out of the board in the last year. The first one was being able to be co-educational again, and that was made about a year ago, which allowed us to open the doors to our day students and also females. So right now I have 3 females as part of my student population. And as that interest grows, and again, the reputation of being an all-male military academy, boarding academy, we fight that on a daily basis. But once, and especially when I'm really looking at the Tallapoosa, Chambers, and Lee counties, once they realize what we really truly have, that number is going to be significantly higher. But having the day students is extremely important, and they add a lot of value to what we're doing. Okay. Yes, sir.
I've got 2 questions. One of them is a lot of the vision includes a lot of improvements. Do the improvements that you're implementing, are those also contributing to gaining back the gold star, or is there a different criteria?
The answer is yes. And so every improvement will make me more competitive for that gold star. But that gold star is based on very clear guidelines set by the Army. Okay. And somehow we ventured away from them, but we're getting back to them. Okay. And again, we were taking in a lot of high risk kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're not staffed to deal with the challenges that we were given, it's not good for them. It's not good for us. And so we've adjusted that. But as we do that, When we were bringing in those high risk kids, it was mandatory that they participated in junior ROTC. Now that was against law because law states that junior ROTC is voluntary. That is by law, written in statute, unless you make it clear in your admissions process that participation is mandatory. We never did that. Okay, so we have leveled that playing field. Junior ROTC is completely voluntary. Because we've made it voluntary, the excellence immediately rises. Why? Because instead of having kids that don't want to be there, who look at it as I'm being punished, instead of those kids who are wearing it because they want to become better citizens, or they want to grow up to become or to serve our nation in the profession of arms, it's a whole different level of quality. At the same time, we're just now in the process of also making participation in the Corps of Cadets completely voluntary. So now I have two sets of students in my dormitories. I have the Corps of Cadet side and I have the prep side. Okay. By taking those kids who didn't want to be in the Corps of Cadets out of the Corps of Cadets immediately raises the excellence. So now I can really start to develop the leadership skills in those kids. But believe it or not, it's about a half and half mix. There are kids like this young man right here. If I said I'm taking you out of the Corps of Cadets, would you be happy? Would you be happy? No. He's absolutely completely dedicated to it. His life aspirations right now are to become a Navy SEAL. And he has the heart of a lion. And as his body grows into that heart, I promise you, he'll have the ability to do that. Okay. But by taking those kids that didn't want to be in that program out of that program, now opens it up his aperture so that he can reach his full development. And I'm watching them grow tremendously every single day. Okay. Now on the prep side, everybody thinks this is going to be a fraternity and we can just do whatever we want. No, the structure is still there. I'm still checking your rooms. I still need you to be where I need you to be. I'm just not using the military framework in order to inspire you to do that. Okay. There's still accountability. There's still code. There's still that standard of conduct that we're doing. So again, when we talk about taking the best of both chapters to make the third chapter, that's exactly what we're talking about. And I would tell you, creates consternation from those that were here in the heyday. Those alumni they're not happy. So there's a group of them that are not happy. They can't wrap their head around it. But if we don't change, we're not going to survive. We will have no hope of surviving. We just won't. And so that's what we're doing. Plus, it's exciting to be on the edge of what it is that we want to become and what we want to do. As we start to think about how we're going to raise the capital in order to build that STEAM center and that permanent greenhouse, and how we're going to resurrect this land, it's exciting. It gives us hope. It gives us a message. It gives us a platform. It gives us the ability to bring the community in to be a part of what we're doing. There were foundations that donated to us regularly in the past, especially during Dr. Ward's time, and then even through Wesley Smith's time, that walked away from our school. But now they're coming back, and they're excited. But it's not about what they can do for the school. It's about what the school can do for the community. And it's that message that's drawing them in. And once they see what it is we're trying to do, they want to become a part of it. And this partnership with New Water Farms and Agri-Solutions and all of those things that gets us back to the regenerative farming. What's the number one industry in Alabama? It's agriculture. It's going to bring those folks back into what it is that we're doing. And hopefully that we can repay that by giving them the young men and women that have that foundation of faith that are better because of the academics that we provided, that are better because of the athletics that they hopefully were able to participate in. And also those that wanted to understand what it means to serve your nation, especially from a profession of arms, viewed from a lens of a profession of arms through our junior ROTC and our Corps of Cadets, that they become a pipeline into those industries. And we're starting to have those connections. I literally signed a letter this past week You can think of whatever large corporation you can think of in your mind, and we've probably got a letter in the mail to them, and to go along with our new trifold that talks about what it is we're trying to do: lead, shape, and inspire. Okay, and I'll leave these up here for those of you who would like to take that with you. So, okay, thank you for that question. Any other questions? Especially for those that have been around the school for a while. What questions can I answer for you? I know you've got to have something, Bill. Okay. Scotty. Yeah. 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 Okay. And again, I'm telling you this in front of folks who built that second chapter. It's daunting because they can look at me and say, you're full of it. But I have enough trust with them that they'll pull me behind closed doors and tell me. And so far, they haven't done it. Go ahead. Right. He actually pulled folks from all over the country. Yeah. Yeah.
For girls outside the area, or do you expect local girls?
Yeah, I have no boarding for girls yet, but I will tell you, I don't have the facilities to properly do it. Okay, I'm sorry. So the question is whether or not we will, are we in a position where we can recruit girls from a boarding perspective, or am I just confined to the local area? The answer right now is I'm confined to the local area because I don't have the facilities to safely board male and female, and I don't know if I have the policies and the procedures, because you're talking from the mid-50s till today, it's been mostly all male, okay, with the exception of day females attending as day students. So there is a lot of institutional inertia. The policies are not in place. Am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? None of that's in place yet. And so, but if the only way I will explore that is if the demand drives me in that direction.
Is there
No, go, please.
is there what feedback is for the ladies who come through this environment where they're around mostly male educational? There could be some.
Let him answer, because his daughter's one of them.
She loves it. She's busy, constant. All her activities. She's got two. She's used to it. But she's got no issues.
Mhm.
Three girls around. Three girls. Here.
I'm going to pull a thread though, because I'll get to you, Bill, I promise. His daughter is also our only female athlete. But here's the trivia question. What sport do you think she's participating in? Anybody have a guess? No. If you know, you can't. Somebody said golf. It's not golf. It's not marksmanship. It's not football, but if she could play football, she would play football. Not track. It's wrestling. Wrestling. So I have a club level wrestling team, and she competes, and she's competed both female only division, but she's also competed co-ed as well. Okay. So again, 21st century society. Okay, Bill.
Agriculture. Everybody's excited.
Yeah.
Nanotechnology is something you're going to bring that to a standard here to merge that with the cyber, and that is
Agreed. So my cyber. So I already have a cyber security program. We've partnered with a cyber company out of Israel, who was connected to us from an alumni, Alex Pybus. Okay, and we got a donation from a donor in order to cover all the costs. And so from a cybersecurity perspective, that's what I did in my military career. It's basically cybersecurity. Is that over the course of a 4-year education, if somebody comes in as a freshman and leaves as a senior and they take all the courses, they'll leave here with 6-figure certifications that most companies, Fortune 500 companies will value. Okay. All the way to include Python programming, Linux essentials, artificial intelligence, and it's the purpose of it, how to use it properly, use it with values and integrity as well. Okay. And so that's on its way. We are in semester number 2, and we are, of the 6 courses that they offer, we've got 3 that are on the palette right now. I just had a conversation with Jeff Lynn, who is the president of Central Alabama Community College, of how, and his workforce development team, and how do we include that as well as other trades, and how do we also to include our dual enrollment, and how do we leverage Central Alabama Community College so that while my kids are in high school, they are going to, whether they want to go on to the most prestigious schools, they may not get credit for taking calculus at Central Alabama Community College. They go to the school that I went to, Purdue would not accept that. However, I'm going to give them the experience in calculus so that when they're in that weed out course and they're sitting next to the valedictorian on either side of them, that they can compete with them. And we're working through that. Or those that don't want to go on to the post-secondary school, that they want to go straight into the workforce. I've got 2 kids that are taking welding right now up here at Edward Bell that's offered through Central Alabama Community College. And we're working with them in order to strengthen all of those partnerships so that I can have my heavy machinery. They've got health sciences. They've got firefighting. All of these things that kids who don't want to go the college route can get those things that they want at the high school level and literally walk away here with the certifications they need to be competitive in that job space. Okay. Now, you asked about the cybersecurity. The other thing is, and I do want to show you one thing. Let me get in here real quick. What I didn't talk about was the robotics. And so I wanted to show you get out of this real quick. I want to show you this quick. If it pulls it out. Nope, come on. Okay, I'm going to turn up the volume here just so that you can hear, because it's important that you see it. And Bill, this is going to get to you. So hopefully you can see the screen.
I'm Dr. Mama Broom, and I am the robotics coach at Southern Preparatory Academy, and this is our first year of competition.
Hey, I'm Corbin Tanner, and I'm team captain of the robotics team.
Hi, I'm Tanner Montgomery, and I'm secretary of the robotics team.
That's my
The
rest.
most difficult part leading up to the competition, I would say, is getting everybody to work together.
It's also communication. People would change things without letting someone else know, and that causes a lot of discrepancies whenever trying to get the robot to work.
Seeing the growth of the team from September to now has been exponential. It is just amazing to watch. One of the most challenging parts of making a successful team is finding everybody's different strengths. Once they find it, they love it, and they're able to grow on it, then you have an awesome team.
After working alongside each other for so long, it kind of gets to the point you're kind of like, okay, lock in.
I think the biggest thing we learned of teamwork during the robotics team is communication is always needed. That's one thing about this last week and today. We've all been forced to be together 24/7 working on this, and it's improved our communication with each other a lot. Things have been running a lot smoother.
I would agree with him on communication. It is really a big part, and we've all had to learn to talk to each other about things that we do in the robotics room.
I feel pretty good about this being Southern Prep's first robotic competition. I'm super happy I'm team captain. I feel like we paved the way for many kids to learn from our past mistakes and really get to be better than we were.
We are in the middle of the competition right now, and we are holding strong. And I am so proud of the team. They are doing a phenomenal job and boosting each other up and keeping us moving forward and working out those problems that definitely like to come up in the competition. This has been a wild ride.
That went from concept in late June last summer, and they just completed their first competition on the 31st of January at the highest level of competition in the state. 24 teams participated. 12 made the playoffs. We were seeded 10th in the playoffs, and we lost in the first round to the 7th seed. From concept in late June till full execution. So my robotics, my cybersecurity, the agriculture, the additive manufacturing, the vision of where we're trying to go with our STEAM center, it's all coming together. All coming together. Joe.
Can I make a comment about our faculty here? Having been a former faculty member and now observing them kind of in a later stage in my life. Dr. Broom, who you just saw, is retired with a PhD from Auburn University. She's teaching small classes. Our teachers are all here by choice. And I know that sounds kind of odd, but a lot of people in a tenure track in a public school are teaching because they're finishing a career, because they have to. Don't get a retirement if they don't. Our faculty members and other people who serve with clubs and other ways of work, we are all here because we choose to be. I retired in 2018, but I didn't. So we're all working here to make a difference, and we have some very highly qualified personnel here working with our kids.
Absolutely, that's a great point. So let's go back to and this is again, I'm not directly answering your question, but I'm laying the foundation that's going to get you that answers your question on your own. If there's one thing that I take away from anything I talked about today that we would cease to exist immediately, what would it be? One thing. If we took it away, we would cease to exist. No, that's all part of it. But what is the one thing out of athletics, leadership, faith, and academics? What's the one thing? Okay, the faith, yeah. Okay, but I can have my faith. But what happens if I close the school? What happens if I take the academics away? You take the academics out of this equation, none of this is possible. It's all about the academics. That's why it exists. Dr. Ward didn't start a farm. He opened a school. He used a farm to support the school. He used athletics to support the school. He used faith to hold the school together. Okay? Yes, sir.
Absolutely. As well as the faculty, I was an absolute. We don't have like inclusive. Of course, into the bar and it's not get ready for competition stages.
He's not paid. So one of the things I did academically is I hired a new dean, Blaine Thompson. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But one of the other things that I directed him to do that I needed him to do when he took that position is to establish 2 curriculum coordinators, one on the STEM side and one on the humanities and the art side. So Dr. Broom is my STEM curriculum coordinator. Every single class must lead to another class until you graduate. It's not a class that's out there on its own island. Everything should feed into another. In the fall, we want to add physics. And of course, Algebra 2 is going to be a minimum requirement or prerequisite for physics. So that Algebra 2 class had better be preparing those kids for that physics course. That's just one example. And then I have Dr. Dean, Sharon Dean, on the arts and humanities side that is doing the same thing, both PhDs. People ask me, well, how do you get teachers to your school? I don't have a problem getting talent to this place at all. And as soon as somebody leaves, I have somebody to fill the gap. I had my commandant stepped away from his position at the beginning of the year. I had somebody already interested in it and ready to go within 2 weeks and filled that position. Commandant position is probably one of the harder ones that we would have to fill. He is a 30-year Navy captain. I don't have a challenge. What my challenge is here is the isolation. And I mean that in a multitude of ways. It's the isolation geographically because the growth from Auburn has not made it here, and the growth from Birmingham has not made it here. So fast forward 20, 30 years from now and see where we're at. Okay. The other isolation is the infrastructure. Once they figure out the utilities going down the 280 corridor, that's a game changer. Because right now, one of the biggest challenges I have with utilities is what, Mr. Watson? It's water.
How much time do you have?
Exactly. Okay, water, literally, it could happen at any moment that we don't have any water. And I've got boarding students. What do I need water for? Everything. Okay. Of course, the restrooms are the ones that pop in my mind. So I've had to, on multiple occasions, crisis manage to get porta potties delivered on campus. Okay. And I know that our elected officials are working through that, but when they saw that utility challenge that we have, and they saw it going down that 280 corridor, the growth and development is going to be behind. That's why we're thinking forward now. That's why we want to prepare now, because I don't want to be doing in the middle of that growth. I want to be the one that spurs that growth. Okay. Yes, sir.
4-part question.
Okay. Hopefully I got a
On the
4-part
academic
answer.
side,
Academics. Yes, sir.
give me an idea. If you could try to do your attracting right.
Hey, I got 2 examples right here. Where are you from? Where am I from?
Melbourne.
Where are you from? Where am I from? What's your GPA? What's your GPA?
Come here.
What did you have to meet first?
Oh, yeah, very high GPAs and like it's probably a good question. You're not the academic.
Next question.
On the military side,
Yes.
what's the number one? Who's being attracted to the school?
On the
Should repeat the question.
okay, yeah. So the first question was what type of students are we recruiting academically? We gave 2 examples of. Go ahead. Oh, what's attracting? Yeah. Okay. I'll let them answer that. But obviously, for them, it was the athletics, but it has to be rooted in the academics. Everything is academics first. Everything is academics first. Because if I take one thing away from this formula that will guarantee my closure, what is it? It's the academics. Okay. And so for their perspective, it's athletics. Okay. But let's go to this student right here. And again, these gentlemen are here because of the agriculture club. What is your driving motivation? What are you here for?
I came here because things were set in a way that set you up for success. They made you think in a way that would drive you to success. So instead of thinking about excuses of why you wouldn't do it, you'd find an excuse to go do it, to go be successful, instead of trying to divert just so you could be lazy.
Okay. And what is it that you want to do with your life?
I want to be a U.S. Navy SEAL.
Okay, part number 3. Yeah.
Who are you speaking to on the academic?
These kids right here. Here's who I'm looking. So the question was asked, who am I looking to recruit on the academic side? Here's what I need. All I need is kids that are willing to put in the work. If you are willing to put in the work, that's all I need. Okay. But if you're coming here because you've got high risk behaviors and you're one step away from jail, I don't have the staff to do that anymore. I just don't. But if you're willing to put in the work, I've got the faculty, I've got the staff, I've got the administration, I've got the board of directors, I've got the alumni that will prop you up on their shoulders and allow you to succeed at whatever level you are willing to work at. If you want to go into the trades, we can have that. If you want to go to post-secondary school, to the best post-secondary schools, we've got that. And if you're undecided, You can dabble in both of them. And then I've got those that are going to go directly into the military services.
DC filter. What's the number one thing you're seeking there?
So junior ROTC. So the question is, what am I seeking in junior ROTC students? Junior ROTC by law is a citizen development program. It is not a recruiting tool for the militaries. It is against the law. I've literally sat in the congressional hearings when listening to the services undersecretaries defend what their junior ROTC programs are. Written in law, it is for citizen development. So in junior ROTC, the kids that I want are those kids that have the sense of being a part of something bigger than themselves. One of the things that I hadn't mentioned, but for my seniors, is a minimum 32 hours of community service in order to graduate. A minimum. Here, I got a senior right here. How many hours have you completed? Yeah.
It's 34.
34.5. Okay. And so service is a part of that. But what you're seeing, I've only mandated it for the seniors, but what you're seeing is that the juniors are doing it, the sophomores are doing it, the freshmen are doing it, and also my 7th and 8th graders are doing it. Yes, sir.
You go out with them, walk the dogs, talk to them. It's offered a lot of extra programs to help you in the future.
So you serve in the community in variety. Each week you're doing something different.
Every month, for example, Optimus, the farm, very well.
Right.
The fence, the drive, I think the drive, there's a white fence and
Where there's a student talking about his community service, and the question was what he was doing. He was talking about painting a fence with New Water Farms. Yeah, that's just during the school day. The things that they do outside of the school day and on the weekends, that's even beyond. That's in North. That's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. And here's another data point that tells me we're on the right track. One of the things for any private school that will give a measure of how successful they are, and it's also a indicator of their culture, and that's retention. From fall of 25 until spring of 26, my retention was 41 of 42. And I graduated two folks as well. And I've added 15 on top of that in just a short period of time. We are quickly approaching our tipping point. When we reach that tipping point, I'll have more applications than I have seats to be able to fill. And we're quickly getting there. But almost 98% of my families are encouraged enough about what we're doing that they brought their kids back. Before, when I got here in August of 24, and going from December of 24 into January of 25, it was a 20 to 30 student attrition rate. And you built attrition into, I'm taking in the high-risk kids. I've got to bring in 50 kids because of those 50 kids, 30 of them aren't going to last. And now I'm literally holding on to every single student. And these are you could pick another 5 kids from up in Tallapoosa Hall and you get the same stories from a different lens and a different perspective. So we're on the right track. We just got a lot of work to go. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So the question is, on the academic side, do we teach the Bible? Every Wednesday. So before last semester, chapel service was on Sundays. Okay. But remember, I opened up my doors to day students back in August. And so by having chapel service on Sunday, how many of those kids are going to come and enjoy that chapel service? So we've moved it to Wednesdays. And Wednesdays, and it's an all faith, you're in an all faith facility, that So now I have it on Wednesday mornings at 8 o'clock that allows me to bring in my students, my staff, my administration, and even families. Got a board member who lives across the street who comes and join us. He joined us for the second time this week. And we also bring in guest pastors from all of the churches from all over this community. Now, our foundational faith is Christianity, okay? But I have students that are of other faiths. Ramadan started yesterday. We are providing religious accommodation as well. From a military perspective of being a commander for 15 years of the 30 years that I served, religious accommodation is extremely important to me. Why? Because each of us has the individual choice to choose who we wish to worship. And I should not force my beliefs on anybody else, but I should show and inspire them to aspire to reap the things that we do because of our faith. But you recognize and you allow those families to be able to continue to exercise the faith of their family. And we are now in the process of opening that up on Sundays. And so through our connection through our churches, we're in the process of identifying host families that will be able to come and get our children on Sunday mornings and take them to their church based on agreements with their families in order so that they can also get the family-based religion and faith that is important to them. The best examples I can give you are Catholics and Latter-day Saints. And so last night on Ash Wednesday, I had one of my Catholic staff members take 6 of my students to services last night so that they could practice their faith. Okay. On Saturdays, I have another staff member who takes one of my students whose family practices the Church of Latter-day Saints, and he takes them to those services on Saturday. And so we are also accommodating to the religious beliefs of our students, in addition to our chapel service that we provide on Wednesdays. And then we have those that are agnostic, and we also accommodate that. Okay. They may not attend the chapel service, but they will have a period of reflection to get the same benefits that our students that are observing the chapel or that are attending the chapel service. They get that same opportunity to reflect, to absorb what's going on around them, and for them to just think about things that are happening in their life. Okay. Yes, sir.
Bible class.
And we have a Bible study club as well. Yes. And we actually are working on a statement of faith that lays all of this out. That becomes part of our student and parent handbook.
What about the Pledge of Allegiance? Is that something you put?
Pledge of Allegiance, yes, especially during we have any ceremonies in here, any military ceremonies, we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. But we also present the colors at every athletic event. Okay. Yeah. 30 years of military service, but it has to be done right. And it has to be taught right. And we're on that path. Okay. But rendering honor to our country, in my perspective, if there's one thing you better get right, that's it. Okay. Yes, sir.
That's the question. He's got a hard stop here.
Yeah.
It's got to be somewhere up here.
Yeah.
Shortly.
Want me to go?
No, please. Yes. Yeah.
Within the recruitment, you generally shape your message of recruitment to the young future student or to the parent? Does that work?
That's a great question. And I'm going to answer it in a different way. When I recruit, I'm recruiting the message that Dr. Ward started. I'm recruiting something that I'm trying to inspire you to aspire to be a part of something bigger than yourself. That's for both the student and the parent. Okay. But the parent's the paying customer. Okay. I'm a top line guy. If you get the top line right, that bottom line will follow. I'm a true believer in that. And so when coming into this position from all kinds of experts around in this world of academia, the one common thread that I heard from them was beware of the parents. And I've actually found the exact opposite of that. I'm actually including the parents earlier on in the conversation from the absolute very beginning. One of the greatest successes that has happened under my tenure is we established the parent-teacher organization, and it is flourishing. And it is setting conditions that I could not have set in any other way. Okay. The parent teacher organization. Okay. It gives them a vote. And we're in the process of giving them of the PTO a voice on the board of trustees. Okay. That's how important the parents are. But here's how it's even more important. Don't just do it when the kid is being disciplined. Do it in the good days as well, especially in the good days. Because when you've made that connection during the good days, when you get to the hard days, the conversations are just a little bit easier. And so the parents are an absolute big part of what we do here. And instead of alienating them or cutting them off from their student, because before they would come in, they'd shave the kid's head, they'd put them in a military uniform, and they cut them off of society for 23 days. Whereas now it's no. That might have worked in the 60s and 70s, but it's not. They don't even do that in the military today. You go to basic training today, it ain't that way. Why? Because the technology we have and the way that we present forces and the way that we fight around the world does not require that. I'm not going to go brigade on brigade in the Fulda Gap in the middle of Europe and fight tank on tank. I've got too much technology that allows me to hold any target at risk at any point in time with whatever weapon I choose. But I don't need that. I need the critical thinkers. I need the people who are willing to give the service of themselves in order to be a part of something bigger. Okay, where does that start at? Where do you think it starts? Where do the moral values of a child start at? So if I alienate the parents, what have I done? I'm actually pulling the parents into the fold. There's a reason why that retention was 41 to 42. And it's not by mistake. So the parents are as much a part of this, but also what a great arrow to pull out of my quiver to the kid. It says, okay, this is warning number 1. Warning number 2 is we're going to have mom and dad on the phone. You want to see some kids snap into shape? Hey, some of them are defiant. It's okay, but we'll bring them in. And it also helps with that relationship. And then if we get to a point in time that it's just not a good fit, then we just go separate ways. So I hope I answered your question. Okay. These were a lot of great questions. This went a lot longer than I thought it would go, and probably more than you did. Here's what I want to leave you with. When you go down to the dining facility, 1, I want you to pay attention to the quality of the food. Okay. Especially during lunchtime. And this young man, or this man right here. When you go there, the question was asked, have we got any food from our greenhouse into the dining facility yet?
Occasionally, but not.
Okay, occasionally. Okay, because that was asked by Joe. But here's what I want you to pay attention to. Just the quality of it. I want you to pay attention to the environment of it. It's a typical high school cafeteria now. Okay. And then, but also when you eat that food, in just 1 year, we've cut our food costs by how we're approaching this. And this is a big part of it, this regenerative farming. It's going to cut it. We cut it by 2/3. Last year, I paid over $250,000 in food. 8 months into this fiscal year, I've only spent $85,000. Okay, so a lot of good things are going on. So I appreciate your time, and I've got to get to the next thing. But please enjoy your time here. For those that are going out on the land, Mr. Watson and Mr. Montgomery are going to lead you out there. But when you do that, I want you to remember that picture I showed you of how Dr. Ward used that land. And what I'm looking for is those program builders that are going to help me turn it back into a semblance of what that was. Okay. So thank you very much.
Really appreciate that. It's a great tour and a lot of history there and memories. And I learned a lot. And I'm going, can I sign up? Can I enroll as a student here? Man, this is like a blast. I mean, who wouldn't want to be here, right, guys? Right? Yeah. So thank you. But let me grab the finger. We'll make a transition here. But a lot of what he said, I think, is really what this group is about. You heard about a lot of things about the restoration of relationship, the teaching aspect, the changing the trajectory of everything, really, the learning capacity, the learning opportunities, and that's really why we're here. And so there's this great quote from Allie, who is in Belize. She's part of our network. It says, "The seeds that we plant to build community, which is what this is all about, are just as sacred as the seeds we plant in the ground." So this is a sacred moment, a sacred opportunity for all of us to steward well and to lean into this conversation. And I think as we lean in, I don't know, it sounds bad to say we're sucked in and we're pulled downstream, and all of a sudden we go, how did I get here? That's my question. How did I get here? How in the world did this happen? But this is amazing. I mean, this is really encouraging. So we as Agri-Harvest Solutions are about building a regenerative community through more resilient agriculture. So two key words in that. One is regenerative, and it's see the words RE. So we're redoing, we're reestablishing, we're regenerating not just agriculture, but the aspect of community. Think about, as you go through a lot of small farming communities, those used to be thriving communities, thriving towns. So this is about regenerating not just ag and not just food, but communities. And resilient is, think of that word resilient. I can take an attack. I can take a pest, a bug, a drought, some stress. We can build a system that nature will heal itself and support that growth. So that's what we're about. So here's kind of the lay of the land, a real quick view. Sadly, it's called conventional agriculture. That's like the last 100 years, last 70 to 100 years. So this is where we see these practices are damaging the soil. So tilling the soil with equipment, basically. You're breaking that soil structure down to where it's a very fine structure. You reduce pore space, you create compaction issues, and lots of issues in that. You destroy the top living part of that soil. Think about the plow where you flip the soil. So you flip the aerobic and the anaerobic, and you've killed that entire soil structure. So monocultures, one crop. We've got a lot of monoculture. That's what's happening in the big ag systems. Corn, soybeans, and wheat are the big rotations. They say that's not really a crop rotation. They're growing these vast fields of one crop. That's created issues. Obviously, the toxic chemicals, we now are becoming more aware of what they're putting on our food. Things like glyphosate and paraquat. Those are toxic chemicals. For instance, paraquat is manufactured in China. It's legal to put it out on food in America. It's approved by the USDA. It's illegal in China. The people that produce it, it's illegal. And if you take any graphs of chemical usage and incidents, things like autism and cancer, Parkinson's, those graphs overlay. So the more increased chemicals, the more issues we have. When I was a kid, I never heard of autism. And now it's just rampant. So we know that these things are contributing to our health. And just overgrazing land, things like not just feedlots, but small pastures that, just there's nubs. And so you're having to supplement feeding because of those things. Working with Matthew and the Tallapoosa County Girls Ranch to kind of reestablish and get their pastures healthy again. And there's ways to do that. But a lot of these conventional practices, looking at synthetic inputs that aren't natural, have decimated our ag industry, and we're seeing some issues with that. So just some symptoms that we see with this damaged soil. We see a decrease in nutrient density. That's our food. We're having to eat more food to get the same amount of calories. Mm-hmm. So our food density and nutrients in those food sources are declining. Issues with water retention. And we know with these bigger storms that we have in climate, it's creating major stresses in our soil. The soil does not hold as much water as it used to. And that's because there's less organic matter in the soil because we have tilled it and we put synthetic chemicals in. We've made that plant dependent on, think of a drug addict. I mean, you got this system that's feeding something and it's dependent on those external inputs. A lot of less earthworms in the soil, and Ryan explained why that was important to us at the last meeting. And here it is. Earthworms take stuff in, they poop the stuff out. That's really great matter for soil health. But also they filter out some of the bad stuff. They're like, we said, they're like buzzards underground. Buzzards eat dead stuff and they don't die, and they take care of the waste. And then also, I mentioned drought resistance, a decrease in drought resistance. Water issues in states like Texas and California, even Georgia has some water battles going on. So we created these issues in these dropping things, but not just decreasing, but increase. We have fruit and root rot. I mean, this is a challenge in Alabama with our tomatoes. We get stuff that pathogens carry through and wipe our fruits out, end rot and blossom rot, and those kinds of things. More pests. A great stat, kind of keep in your hip pocket is for every bad bug, there's 1,700 good bugs. And we see something on a plant and we want to spray it and kill it. Well, guess what? It kills all of them. So that an increase in those pest problems. Plant wilting, basic overall plant health. And leaf discoloration. You can look at plants and see different colors that we didn't see before, and that's not natural. Plant's not doing its natural thing. So this damaged soil is a big deal. So here's the solution. Why not establish practices that replenish the soil? Why not put things into our practice, our ag practices that encourage soil health? Because healthy soil makes healthy plants. Healthy plants make healthy produce or fruit. And guess what healthy fruit makes? Healthy people. So it's a system that we're looking at. What I love about what they're doing here at the Southern is they're addressing a system. And I love it because it's education. It's sending folks out that are informed. It's putting this land back as it was intended, not just as it was intended to be, but making the land useful and productive. So here's how we can do that: minimal till, no tillage, stop destroying that top part of that soil. Increase crop coverage, keep the bare soil covered. That's called soil armor. Supportive inputs, things that are natural, biologics, things that don't just feed the plant, they feed the soil, microbes, bacteria, those kind of things. And companion plants, things that complement one another. So to get away from monoculture, a forest is not a monoculture. It's a broad array of species and plants. So there's a great documentary a few years ago, if you haven't watched this, called Kiss the Ground, followed by a documentary 2 years ago called Common Ground. This quote is, soil is the beginning of the quality of food. It all starts in the soil. And that's the stuff we don't see necessarily. We like to look above the ground to see what's happening in our plants. But let's look at what's happening below the soil. I think this is where, all right, we're going to try this. Hopefully this will work. This is Allie, who's down in Belize. She's an incredible woman that's really talented in lots of fields, but biology research, events, all those things. Allie, I hope this works. All right, did Ryan just leave? All right. So, just this would go forward and backward.
Okay.
So, guys know Ryan Montgomery. Ryan's been a great friend. Ryan and Kathy rescued me from a plumbing error. I'll call it error. Years and years ago at New Water, and we became fast friends. And so this guy's taught me a ton, and we've been on this journey together for probably about 10 years. But we worked together for about 2 years at New Water, and we learned a lot together. And then when he came over here, introduced me to Corey and said, "Hey, we've got this opportunity to help them." And I'm so excited about the opportunity to invest in what the Southern's doing and make a difference. So I'm gonna let him talk about where they are and what he's doing here at Southern.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Montgomery. I'm the dining hall manager. Started a wrestling team here and currently getting an agriculture program off the ground. Talking about agriculture, there is a regenerative wave that's coming and we all need to get on board. Think what you want about this administration, but when you have the Department of Agriculture having conversations with people like Joe Salatin, there's a good thing coming, and we're not necessarily in it for the money. It's a lot to do with our health. So where do we all start? A lot of us know about home gardens. We all have, well, in this area of the woods, we all have a grandma or an aunt or somebody that had a home garden, and we were probably familiar with how to maintain that garden. It had tilling. There was fertilizer involved. There was a lot of weeding in the summertime. It seemed like when it was really hot and you didn't want to be out there, that's when you had to be out there for the weeds. It's how our grandparents and parents did it. Sometimes we put a lot of stuff out there on that garden, whether it was fertilizer, like you said, there was a pest, and we went out there with 7 dust and we killed everything. Dangers they didn't tell us. I had a customer of mine. He was an elderly man in his 80s. He worked a garden, and his garden looked immaculate. And I said, how did you get your garden looking so good? You know, mine's never looked that good. And he said, it's really easy. When everything starts to green up, I spray it with Roundup. When it's about 2 weeks later, I'll hit it again. And then I'm going to start planting my stuff in there. And that was back in the early 2000s, and nobody talked about it. But now you see a lot of commercials, and they're like, oh, glyphosate might be dangerous to your health. Call this number. You know, I believe they've known the whole time, but that's for a different story. What we know now, we have damaged the soil with overtilling. We'll get into a little bit of this, but we're constantly tilling the soil. We know now that there's microbes, there's organisms under the soil. There's a network of fungi and other things that help the plant retain nutrients, and they have a symbiotic relationship going on. So every year when we break up the soil, we're disrupting all that. Like I said, we've been using chemicals that now they say, oh yeah, you might not want to use that. If we feed the soil feeds the plants, right? So what do we think about? We want to fertilize something constantly, and we make it dependent on our water and our fertilizer, but there's some things we can give it that are better than others. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. Mulching is very important. If you look around, you bust up some red clay in Alabama, and somebody's going to say nothing grows in that red clay. But if you take a step 50 yards over into the woods, you're surrounded by plants and kudzu and blackberries, and it's all growing in there, right? So the red clay does grow things. But one thing you'll notice is the top of the soil is always covered. If you expose the soil, something's going to grow there. And that's actually trying to help the soil because it needs to stay out of the sunshine. So mulching is a great way to inhibit weed growth, prevent the sun from damaging the soil, and it helps the water. You know, mid-July, the sun's on the soil, that top layer is going to be dry as dust. Large-scale farming practices. I said war. I believe that we have went to war on the land. We have big tractors that look like tanks, and we make the land submit to what we want it to do. We put a bunch of stuff on it, and we say grow, and it grows big, beautiful fruit, vegetables, whatever, but they're completely empty of nutrients. And that goes back to the soil. The soil holds the nutrients. The plant uptakes it, and we uptake it. farmers, health rates, and suicide. You know, I believe things manifest in different forms. If you look at the farming industry and you looked at farmers are 3.5 times more likely to commit suicide than the national average, there's probably something wrong with that. Okay. Ag industry and big pharma crossover. What's the two biggest industries in the United States? Agriculture and pharmaceuticals. And guess what? Now they're friends. Now ag wants to be in pharmaceuticals and vice versa. I think there's something going on with that. We got Mississippi Delta dead zones and the Gulf of America. You can go out there in the Mississippi Delta and there's huge swaths of sections that there's not a plant life, not a fish, nothing. That is because of our farming practices. I'll show you that. Disease, pests, flooding, rampant in all kinds of situations. It wouldn't have that if it wasn't for us. We've had our hand in there and we tried to submit the land and look, it's warring back at us, but we'll just pour more chemicals on it and tell it what to do. The Dust Bowl, we learned that. We went out and got rid of all the pasture lands. The animals were a part of that. Things grew. We got rid of all the pasture lands and got rid of the animals, and they had the Dust Bowl. Killed a lot of people. People were starving. It was a time in America where we needed agriculture to feed people, and it was a really sad situation. COVID, we learned about supply chain issues. Well, we get fruit, vegetables from as far as we can get it, we can get it. Most of our stuff comes from California or Mexico or different places, when we can be doing a lot of that in our own backyard. And then you have something like COVID happens, and then you can't get a tomato or a piece of toilet paper, and we're all in trouble. Right here is that dead zone I was talking about. This is, if you see this part, this is where a lot of our agriculture is in the United States. I mean, this is huge agriculture spots. And that's where all the water goes. And then you go right here. We say this is all life and green, where you go right here and it's all death. Nothing there. And that's because our topsoil, our chemicals, all these extra inputs are just going right into the Mississippi River and out into the Gulf. Regenerative right now. Like I said before, there's a regenerative movement going on. I'll get a little bit into how we can help with that. But healthy soil is healthy land, is a healthy environment. Healthy people. We can't say we're growing a bunch of vegetables and fruit for our health, and then we look around and everything looks like death and destruction, right? What was that farmer's name? He said he went out every day looking for something to kill. Will Harris, right? We get up every morning and decide what I'm going to kill. A bug, a cow, a fungus. Healthy people, microbes, and gut health. A lot of that stuff that's growing in the soil that's good for the plant, we can wash it all we want, but we're going to get some of that in our system. And guess what? It's good for us. A lot of those microbes actually help us break down food, help us retain, but we eat a bunch of sterile, empty stuff, and we're on a bunch of little brown bottles. Food is medicine program. There's a big push for food as medicine, especially in places like Oklahoma. And if you look at the bottom, insurance company support. So people that are having to pay for medical bills, the insurance companies, they're putting a lot of money into the food as medicine because they found out that if they feed people healthy, it's saving them in the long run. There's less trips to the doctors. A lot of these chronic illnesses are being curbed and brought almost to nothing. If their money wasn't going into it, I would wonder. But they showed by their response that it's working. So they're paying a little bit. They're, eat more healthy greens, and they're finding regenerative farms to get this stuff, and it's helping their clients, and it's saving them big time at the doctor. What's the future look like? Well, an urban ag supply. So we have a lot of big cities that have nothing in there. We can, with stuff like aquaponics, mushroom cultivating, people composting the stuff in the city instead of throwing it into the dump, growing microgreens. There's a lot of little farmers that could pop up close to these cities where it doesn't all have to come from California. It can come from right down the road. But that's going to take relationships with cooks at these restaurants, small business owners. It's possible. Oh, perishable equals healthy. If you take a tomato and you put it on your shelf and or on your counter and it looks the same in like 2 or 3 weeks, there's probably something wrong with that. It should be looking different in a couple of days. That's because it's breaking down the way it's supposed to. And if it's not, there's a problem. How do we help everything? Education, meetings like today, networking, getting with AgriHarvest, telling your neighbors, telling local farms, telling friends. Here at Southern Prep, we're trying to tell the students, if you follow the money, and we had this problem when we tried to talk to an extension agent. He paid a lot of money for his education, and he was going to tell us what he learned, and I don't blame him for it. But Big Pharma and Big Agriculture put a lot of money into that college for them to teach them a certain way to do it. So the things we're doing, we have to start at a grassroots level, and we have to tell the people around us. We have to tell our neighbors. We have to tell these young kids. At Southern Prep, I won't get into much more of that, but you see how we're going to do that with the STEAM building. You see how we're going to do that with the property. Think it'll make it. We need to source local stuff. We have chip mills around here that has bark as a byproduct. We have farms around us that have stuff as a byproduct. I have manures highlighted. Not all manures are good. We talked about herbicides. If you want to get some horse manure from a local farmer, know where his hay came from, because the stuff that kills the broadleafs that was sprayed in the pasture is in the hay. The horse poops it out. You use it on your garden. Your broadleafs are toast. But that's the system that we promote, that we live in. But we have to change it. Farm to table lunches. Have somebody over, cook them something from your garden, and let them know a little bit about what this is, what we're doing, and we can bring a change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a great, if you really want a good read that's take you a while, it's a slow read, a book by David Montgomery and his wife Ann Bilkey called What Your Food Ate. It's a lot of science. There's some folks in the room that are kind of reading it now, but it really makes you aware of what really is going on and what our food ate. And the great thing is people are becoming more aware. They're starting to ask questions. They're starting to pick up that label and look in the grocery aisle. Prescott says you can't go down the cereal aisle without seeing, what's it called, re-engineered or whatever. So, yeah, yeah. But you invite somebody over your house and cook them something out of your garden. They go, man, this is amazing. What's the difference? I say, well, it came right over there. So, but really, this is a great. How we treat the land affects how it in turn treats us. And that's just, you go, oh, that makes sense. We just have forgotten that, I think. But anyway, so we want to real quickly show you some results that we have. And last year we began testing. I might get Scotty to come up if he wants to talk anything about this. But what we're testing is, this is personally from New Water Farms. We had a big fungal outbreak in our blackberries, and Matthew remembers this because everything was going great, and then all of a sudden we got this yellow rust in our blackberries, and it travels by spore, so that we got a lot of wind on the lake, and so in a matter of a few days, 3 separate blocks were covered in this stuff, and it decimated our production. I felt like we were about 50% of where we should be. We dropped another 30% last year. So we went from about 1,900 pounds of harvest one year to a little over about 1,200 pounds. And same amount of work, same amount of effort, a lot less production. And so we were doing the kind of the program of synthetic fertilizers and sprays, and this moved in, and I was like, help, this is not good. This is one of our main crops. And the the literature advice was to cut them all down, burn them, dig them up, and leave the land fallow for 3 years. That was our cash crop. So like, not a good solution. So that's where we got involved with the magnesium hydroxide. And so we began a soil drench and then a foliar spray program throughout the fall. And so on the left, as you can see, the rust on the leaves, and it kills the leaves, production dies. And then this was the new growth that came back for this year's vines. And so out of 600 or 700 plants, I found about 3 plants that had the rust on it after treating with the magnesium. So we began a magnesium hydroxide program with the NutriPlant 643, which is obviously a low nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium with about 10 micronutrients, sprayed about every 7 to 10 days. And then our big pests are deer. And so we found a commercial product, Tractor Supply, called Liquid Fence. And so I can mix all that together in one tank, make one pass, and be done with it. I can spray the whole orchard in about an hour. So great results in our blackberries. So that's pretty cool. This is some kale that Scotty grew out of his house. So these were store-bought transplants. Put them in the soil, did a soil drench on the one on the right. This was untreated. And so I'm like, there's no comparison. I mean, you can't put a percentage of difference that it is. So you might get one little dinky salad out of this one. This could feed a family. So that's pretty good results. So plant at the same time, same source plant. This is just magnesium treated, and then fertilize it with the 643. Cabbage, similar story. Plant at the same time, commercially purchased transplants. Same soil, everything's the same except this one got the magnesium treatment. That's just a drench, right? It wasn't a spray. And then fertilized with the 643. So that's, we estimate about a 400% difference. Again, there's no head there. There's a cabbage head. So big difference, those two. Scotty planted some sunflowers out at the farm, seeded the same time. These rows are spaced apart. They're separate from each other, but direct seeded in the ground. I mean, 35 days of growth. We had about a 15-inch height, no blooms or flowers. The leaves looked sort of healthy, but the difference between those that were treated with the magnesium, and these are treated with the seed, so a seed soak. Same 35 days of growth. You got about double the height, and you got flowers, multiple flowers coming out. So he shortened that growth cycle to where it's fruiting. Also, the health of the plant, obviously taller. So same soil. I mean, everything's the same except the magnesium treatment, and he got fertilizer in the 643. So
Accelerated growth period.
Say that again.
Accelerated growth period.
Accelerated growth period. Yeah. Tomatoes. These are some Roma tomatoes. These were seeded at Newater Farms. Gave Scotty the transplants. We put these in his container, same soil. Treatment on the right of magnesium and the 643. These were all planted the same day. And you can obviously see the difference. I don't think there's much of a comparison there, but a lot more vegetative growth. Obviously, vegetative growth is going to have more fruit yield in that. Better Boy plant, again, seeded transplant from Newater Farm from seed. Grew this plant 3 months. In 3 months, 90 days, produced over 350 tomatoes, which is about 7 bushels of tomatoes off of one plant.
One plant.
One plant. 7 bushels. So the one takeaway I have from this is, Ryan addressed the challenges in urban farming where land is scarce. You may have a high rise, but I could plant this in a pot and I might could produce 7 bushels. Let's just say I only made 3 bushels out of one plant. So now, Buck, you can grow the tomato plant. My neighbor can grow the squash plant. I mean, you have a group of families come together and each plant small plants, and they have incredible yields, and that helps feed a neighborhood with a lot less effort. I don't need a tractor. I don't need land. My time is greatly, benefits. So 90 days, one Better Boy. It's not dead. It may still be going. I don't know. Just kidding. It's not bell peppers. This is the cool story. So Scotty were these from Newater as well? Yeah. So we seeded these out in the greenhouse. So this is the same plant. On the left, intentionally drought stressed, no water for 7 days. And you can see in the high heat in Alabama, that thing looks dead. We've named this Lazarus. After 20 days, this was originally pre-treated with the magnesium, correct? But no water. So remember, one of the things, the challenges is the water retention. So this is treated, but left the water away. And just after almost 3 weeks of watering, the thing comes back to life and produces fruit. So most people would have gone, I would have pulled this out, going, it's dead, it's gone. But rewatered the plant that had been treated, and it comes back to life. Is this the same? This isn't the same place. Okay, different trial. So we have green bell peppers, typically 12 to 15 fruits on one plant is the norm. That's why you have to plant a bunch of them if you like peppers. But this plant on the right was treated with the magnesium hydroxide, and Scotty can't count past 325, he thinks, but it should be 325 plus bell peppers on one plant in one growing season. Again, think urban challenges. How many bell peppers do you consume in 1 year? And think about what they cost in the store. I mean, that's what?
One pot and one plant, right?
One pot and one plant, 325 fruits.
You got a couple of years worth of bell peppers.
Yes, sir.
You have even greater yield.
I think you would have, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and if you, let's just say you want to go sell at the farmer's market. I mean, what would you sell a pepper for? $1 or $2? It's like $700.
So we treated it. If someone's been on it, planted, we treated it again twice. So that was treated about 60 days. Treated at about.
Yeah, the thing with the magnesium, you got to get it in the soil so that it uptaken into the plant. That was the mistake I made on a lot of things. I just started spraying it and didn't have a dramatic effect because it wasn't in the system. You have to get it in the soil first. Yeah, that's a,
Right. Is blocking that every one of those that we planted, all the control at that. Everyone, we lost about 50% of the fruit off of those peppers of our yield because of that blossom end here. This excellent farm. We been in everything.
yeah.
It's made as peppers.
So he's talking about this end rot here on the peppers. We have a lot of tomatoes as well, so we're hoping to reduce all that. And also, I mean, look at the number of fruits, the number of additional blooms. I mean, just the clusters are incredible. Yeah, a lot greener.
Bloom clusters. And that's why you get such a low. But what we're getting about 5 to 7. So what we're seeing, that's what we're getting that massive amount of fruit. It's going to be able to blooms and blooms. Why is that? Because plants are built. Plants not having to fight off bugs, not having to fight off anything. It's just able to just grow and just be happy. Thanks. What that magnesium has, that plant 100% of the nutrients that you put in it. And fertilizer, I don't care what fertilizer it is, that plant will take up about 60%. That magnesium falls to that fertilizer and allows it to pull, that plant will pull. Whatever it is, organic, even with some granular fertilizer, we use granular fertilizer. Just
Yes, sir.
Exactly. Good.
so good.
The question is, are commercially like Bonnie, I shouldn't say who they are. If I go to a big box store and buy plants, what's my risk? Are those plants any good? Yeah. There's a lot of disease that gets transferred in those. Yeah. Yeah.
We can pull stuff in here. We can pull things off out of those peppers. They're carrying that protected layer. It's already in there. You can see that over. The thing is over. We have these strawberries and peppers. The mother plant has picked up and straight.
So this one is the actual fruits from the drought stress plant. Same. This one is, not this one. So typically, this is what we're seeing: 3.87 ounces per fruit. This fruit is from Lazarus, the one that was restored. It's 7.8 ounces. And the color, this is what peppers do. They're going to mature. So they got better coloration, much better tasting plant. Actually, probably has taste. So yeah, that's another great thing. So Lazarus came back to life, made it double the size. Fruit. That's just an average one. I mean, he ran
Now,
some
to go
more.
back to the previous slide, you had, I think it was, and you lost half of them, okay? But the peppers, the 17 that you lost were 38, was that 38 grams?
Yeah,
3.87 grams. Okay. 3.87 times 6, what do you got there? What's round as to
25 ounces, yeah.
Fruit. Over here, you've got 385 that are almost 3 times the size of the control. So do the math.
Yeah. More fruits, bigger, healthier. That way. This is something I did towards the end of December. We're growing some heirloom corn, and I wanted to know it's non-GMO, and I was trying to figure out. I got all the seed that we harvested. Can I grow new plants out of it? So I did a little germination test with their corn seed, and I did a 48-hour soak in the magnesium hydroxide solution on this side, and this was just planted into the cells. And what I was looking at first was, will it germinate? What was my germination rates? And then second of all, when I pulled them, I wanted to know what size the roots were. So these are just randomly pulled. These 3 were untreated. It's my control. This is the one, the seed treated for the magnesium hydroxide. And you can see there's a significant difference. I tried to kind of stretch it out. This looks like it's a lot, but what you have here is a fair amount of good sized roots, and then there's a few little fingerlings that kind of go down here. This one just goes, it went past the thing. And then just the overall volume across the board is greater. So that plant's starting out. I mean, these corn seeds are about 12 inches tall. So it's starting out on a much better, start from start. So obviously somebody asked about root uptake. I mean, nutrient uptake. You've got more surface area for root uptake. You've got more opportunity for water to be pulled up. And look, these are going deeper into the soil. So that's what you want. It's really what you want. So I was encouraged with that. So 30 to 50% more root mass in the first 2 weeks. All right, so just kind of going over this real quick, and I know that you guys have been like taken from a fire hydrant, everything from Lyman Ward to Southern Prep to how to grow better food, but this is what we're all shooting for. And this partnership that New Water has with Southern Prep and they are starting from scratch. I mean, they used to kind of have it going on 100 years ago, but Ryan is with the backing of the board and the school has really got a great thing going here. And Robert, in addition in the kitchen, this guy in the back he's a secret agent, but regenerative farmer, worked with lots of James Beard Award winners, chefs, worked at 1856 in Auburn, and just a great chef, but he's an incredible farmer. We buy meat from him, and we absolutely love it. It's so much better than the store-bought stuff, I would tell you that. And But this is what we're looking for. So the benefit is that we want to grow healthier plants. We want greater root mass, stronger stalks to withstand the challenges. We want to increase our nutrient uptake. We want to be more resistant to pathogens, pests, and diseases. And that, I'm going to tell you guys, that's going to be looking at the entire system, not just what's above the ground, but what's happening below the ground. Healthier fruit. I mean, obviously, who I want better tasting fruit? And I said earlier, part of this thing with the nutrient, the drop in nutrient density, we're having to consume more food and more to get the same calorie benefit. There's an example, I think it's in the What Your Food At. You got to eat a whole bag of barbecue potato chips, right, to feel full. I mean, it's satisfying, but you got to eat the whole bag, and it leaves you not filled. And that's what's happened. So, but with this, what we're looking at the system, we've been able to in our trials, larger fruit, it's more flavorful. We made a salad a couple of months ago, and the bell peppers are from the garden. Somebody, Barry said, "These are the sweetest tasting peppers. What'd y'all do? Put a magnesium on it." Yeah. Greater budding, higher fruit production, and just supplement ferment harvest. I mean, it's just the quality. You guys know when you went to grandma's house and ate stuff out of the garden. It's a much better experience, right? But increased harvest. I mean, anywhere from 17. These are kind of we just kind of gave up trying to put a parameter on it but just a lot more production. But not only that, we have a friend that's down in South Alabama treated his muscadines with the magnesium. He got 4 separate fruit sets on his muscadines. Usually you get 1. It produced into frost, and he was getting, but yeah, 3 additional fruit sets on his muscadine plants. And then obviously a decrease in the loss of fruit. And Scotty mentioned some of the diseases that we've got here. So what we're doing in the spring, we're spraying magnesium as things begin to leaf out to improve our stress tolerances, our pest resistance. We New Water have moved away from synthetics, that's fertilizers and sprays, and gone to organics and biologics. We want to boost our pest resistance. And here's the other thing that this seemed counterintuitive to me. My background was in agricultural engineering, big ag, did the way everybody else did it. But this is all counterintuitive. The healthier that you can make your system, obviously the more defense mechanisms are, but the greater the biodiversity. If you're not seeing birds and bees and butterflies, you got an issue. At New Water, we're seeing more bird species, more perennial pollinators, those kinds of things. And then last summer, we have interns that work for us during the summertime, and they were picking peas, and they're going, "Oh my gosh, there's all these wasps out here. We need to go spray the wasps." It's like, calm down. There were 3 different species of wasps, and guess what they were doing? They were eating aphids. I mean, God made it that way, and we try to destroy it. So, but then the interesting thing, the magnesium molecule is at the center of the chlorophyll atom. It's the gateway, it's the conduit for that nutrient uptake. The photosynthesis process is dependent on magnesium, and most things are magnesium deficient. We are, our plants are, animals are. So with the magnesium, we're going to increase chlorophyll. We're going to increase photosynthesis, not just making more fruit, but nutrients, carbon, nitrogen are coming into the plant, out the root exudates into the soil. So that magnesium is important, obviously, by improving photosynthesis. So we have some options here. This is one company that's been helping us, and we're doing some of the research with them. This magnesium hydroxide nanoplate form that Allie mentioned in her video is a supplement that augments the soil, balances the pH, accelerates growth, doesn't dissipate, it doesn't leach out of the soil like most water-based soluble chemicals do, fertilizers do. And it reduces our need for microbials and pesticides. But I will tell you, most soils around here are microbial deficient. So, but we see an increase up to 65% in yields. So that's in beta test. I'm looking at another product right now from Advancing Eco Agriculture called PhotoMag. It has a bunch of other elements in there, but it's going to build our soil. So that's a foliar spray that we can use. We're testing it in our seedlings now with the soil drench compared against the other one. But that's a great product. That's a great company, Advancing Eco Agriculture up in Pennsylvania. We're doing a foliar. We switched a lot to foliar fertilizers instead of broadcasting stuff out or putting solubles out. No heavy metals, got a lot of trace minerals, strengthen the plant bodies, got higher yields. more flavor, resistance to stress, and this is the key: balanced nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. It's actually a 6-4-3. It's not your triple 13, triple 16. One thing we did when we ran our soil test at Newater last year, we have an excessively high concentrations of phosphorus. And it just sits in the soil unless it erodes off into the lake. And then we have issues with plankton and algae and all that good stuff. So we have a big imbalance of phosphorus now. I think a lot of it's probably unavailable to the plant. It's tied up somewhere else, but we got a big issue with that we're trying to address. But this NutriPlant has all these other things, sulfur, boron, all those things that are necessary at different seasons of the plant. But it's a very balanced product that I'm super happy with. Rapid nutrient uptake. Obviously, these other great things for building resistance and resiliency in our plants. So we foliar spray it, and then there's the deer repellent. And so we're working on maybe developing our own one of these because we figured out what's in it. And it's basically anything that stinks really, really bad, deer hate. But it's safe. We can foliar apply it, and it smells bad. I tell people, don't spray this around your house because you won't want to go outside. But we've had really great luck with it. It's scent-based. It's got things like eggshells and garlic, and I mean, just think of all the stinky stuff that the deer don't like, and they stay away from it. They have not. They would come in and at night they're nocturnal because that's what they do. They figured out there's no pressure and strip the buds off of our blackberry vines, and then we lost all that. So they stay away from it. With the Plentiful, our system, you can become a beta tester. I think you can talk to Scotty about that, or Buck as well, maybe, if you're interested in being a tester. And we're looking for good data. So I've added some additional biologics with this advancing ecoag to really try to promote soil health, mycorrhizal fungi, those kinds of things, bacteria. We're testing our fungal to bacteria ratios this summer once our soil temps come up, really trying to build some healthy soil. There's some other things on there. Brian's taught me a lot about compost teas, so we're doing worm casting teas, and we're doing full drench starting next week when after this little cold blast goes through. We're going to add some food to the soil. But obviously, Brian mentioned mulching and cover cropping. We started last year cover cropping our soils and not leaving them bare during fallow season, or actually we're rotating some cover crops through our system just to keep that living root in the ground. It suppresses the carbon and nitrogen out of the air and puts it in the soil. It's free fertilizer. And so it's been great. It holds our soil in place, and then we have a nice thatch when we start our spring gardening. We just lay it over and plant right into it. So cover crops. But as we talked a lot today about community, and a farm is nothing without the community that supports it. It's from a farmer in North Carolina that says that. And, doing it alone, not that fun. We do it with a group of people. Heard a guy say last week, the smartest person in the room is the group. So, I'm looking here right now. There's probably 800 to 1,000 years of collective wisdom. I mean, we can learn from each other. And that's been the beauty of what I've been involved with and friendships with Ryan and Kathy over the years. And some of you are new friends, and, Matthews works with us, and it's just fun to learn together. It really is. So we're, like-minded individuals gathering together to change the world and create systems that boost better food. And to do that's long lasting, not just at no one and done, but to grow more food in the same amount of space, address some things like food scarcity and those kinds of things. So we just want to be intentional stewards. We got some things coming up. Typically, we're doing these gatherings at Newater the first Thursday. I think the third Thursdays are going to start moving to here. And then I will say, I don't think that's the right date, but we do have a March 19th screening of a documentary called To Which We Belong, and it's a global farming, more about pasture land and regenerating health through livestock coming up at Newater. Here's how you can stay with us. This is me. Just call me Robert. Just Dr. Thing. It's kind of weird. When I was young and I got my PhD in ag engineering, my grandmother said, "You're not a real doctor." She paid a lot for that. Paid a lot for that. Scotty's in the background there, and we've been good friends for a year now. We just celebrated our 1 year anniversary together. So, but farming with him and learning together, and it's been a blast. So here's a couple of podcasts. You mentioned these names. Joel Salatin has a farm called Polyface Farms in Shenandoah Valley. He's one of the early movers and shakers in the regenerative movement. He invented the mobile chicken tractor, if you're coming into that kind of thing. But he's got a lot of great things to say. And then Ryan quoted Will Harris about, what am I going to kill today when I wake up? Will's in Bluffton, Georgia. Has a White Oak Pastures, is the name of his organization, 25 years, transforming from a very conventional cattle operation with 3 employees. So now he's a multifaceted organization with 180 employees, built their own slaughterhouse, shipped the meat all to 48 states, and just got a great book called A Bold Return to Giving a Damn. And he writes just like he talks. So it's a really fascinating story. If you ever get over that way, Bluffton, Georgia, population 210, it's worth the trip to see what he's doing. But there's some great educational sources. We mentioned What Your Food Ate. There's 2 great documentaries to kind of prime the pump for you. If you just Google regenerative agriculture, oh my gosh, you'll be flooded. And most of it's pretty good, actually. There's some stuff that's out there that's not, but it's as Ryan said, there's a movement started, and we're in a great space and a time in this place to make this change. I will say it's not an instantaneous change. It's at a minimum, if you made a conversion to your operation, it's 3 years. It's about a 3 to 7 year transition period. And as I said, think of a drug addict. You got to wean them off. And it's the same thing with our land. We create these dependencies. We've got to change those systems and wean off these systems. We appreciate everybody coming out today, and those joining us on the Zoom call, if you're still there. It's been a great morning to spend with you. And we are Agri Harvest Solutions, and hope that we can grow some good food together. So I think now, Ryan, are we going to go eat now? Their food is waiting on us, and Robert's going to follow that as well. Okay, and then following that,
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sticking through with us. We're going to take a tour of their cold frame that they've got going on, and kind of can walk the land a little bit and show us what they're planning for the next 100 years, right?
Just to how big each other. Take a tour. Jay.
So we just follow him to the cafe, right? It's right over there.
Thank you so much. This was amazing.
Thank you all. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We're good.
Yes.
Jason.